Not just that, it makes a lot of sense because they're doing the other fallback strategy where we have Invoker, we're gonna have an Alacrity Lumiere. That is scary. That is something that not a lot of teams have done a very good job of dealing with. Not just that, in the first three, now your fantastic Bloodseeker game where you have two Rupture targets, you have two Rupture targets now. You have that Soulbind, you have a slight bit of combo coming in from your five. Tonka is
Uh,
a pretty good pick here. It just means that it's interesting because you're picking it as a melee mid laner versus the Earth Spirit. So now Michael does have a lane to actually gank pretty reliably here. But I think they pick it saying, Infamous, you kind of have damage problems right now. No one is really putting in the deeps right now. Aside from Alone, who's going to have good damage in the first 10 minutes of the game, who is really going to be the one exploding out onto the map? Is it going to be Michael? Is it going to be the Bloodseeker? I can only imagine Sacred's going to go for another pretty early Atos here. And I think that's why they ban out that Lifestealer, because they know they are really low on lockdown and damage. They are pretty much all in, I think, on Lumiere being some incredibly massive hero. We'll have to see what Four Zoomers want to ban out. I think they could very well go for a hero like the Sven again, but this is where I think they're going to need, again, something that's going to get active and want to actually participate in these fights.
yeah, if you go for a slow build up farming hero, then no one on your team is going to have any damage to work with prior to that hero getting up there. So, as you said, the Sven sort of seems like a great option here, and for Zoomers, or great option as a ban at this point, but they'll go for the Ursa first instead, another hero that, yeah, would have been able to get involved in those fights so much earlier, and especially with the Invoker Alacrity and things like Soulbind and Rupture to reduce mobility, the Ursa would have just absolutely annihilated anyone put in front of him. So, like the ban from four Zoomers. Meanwhile, for the Infamous side, you talked about the lifesteal being taken away. Heroes that can sort of stand up against some of that gank potential. The Jug coming to mind as another hero that they would have trouble getting to.
Yeah, I'm just thinking in the back of my mind, is there a sacred hero that we're looking for Infamous to pick up here? Is it going to be a Lumiere Bloodseeker? There's no way you ban out Tronia Bloodseeker if you have a if it's going to be an offlane Bloodseeker. Is there a possible Medusa pick? Is there any way they try that? I feel like that's way too slow. It's really difficult to gauge what they're gonna try to do. I was thinking in the back of my mind, maybe there's a Ricky that you could pick up for Infamous, where it plays well versus both Weaver and Pango. You get to pick up a Silence at the very least versus those very obnoxious heroes, and you don't really care about Kunkka. So the ban out Sven. Is this a ban Sven, pick Ricky kind of game? I feel like they need a hero, almost a hero like a combination of PA and Sven to have that damage coming in from you. I don't think they can pick PA on its own. It just doesn't do anything to buildings at that point. So they've really got an interesting problem they got to solve here that Lumiere really has to solve here for them.
To be honest, I'm not sure if I could ever bring myself to root
Or
for
is it
Ricky
just
being
Luna?
picked. But whoa,
Okay. There's your multi-tool.
So the Dawnbreaker picked up. That is something actually I believe we've seen from Infamous already. Lumiere on that position one Dawnbreaker, and it went pretty well when they ran it. So you've got more damage, you've got a very durable hero as well, someone that can be mobile on the map and active in the fights with the Solar Guardian. So Infamous have managed to sort of check, I believe, every box that they really needed.
Yeah, we
Oh, but
just
there's the
need to
Jug.
see. Yeah, it's the Jug again from Costa BLA. Does not care about anyone. I think they spent their bans pretty well on the Infamous side, but Costa BLA is going to be pretty much right at home with this Jug pick. The only problem I have with it, and like you said, we have seen it before, is how are we getting into Roche? How are we going to get onto buildings? Is this the type of lineup where we need to kill our opponents over and over and over again? And how do we actually accomplish that? I think this game is now entirely on the shoulders of Michael. If Michael can really start these fights off well, if he can get onto these backlines, all of the four Zoomers heroes hate being silenced. The silence is the strongest thing they have going for them right now. And then maybe you have an Alacrity, Lumiere, Dawnbreaker just beating you up on the side lanes, but I'm still a little bit worried. This has got to be that run at you Infamous that we know that they are, but they've really got to pull something versus a team that, again, is going to try and play very defensively versus you. And at the end of the day, it's kind of funny. It is just going to be Mupango. So there we go.
Yep. I mean, the flexibility was something we were talking about. So Pango at the 3. And yeah, as you said, Infamous now have to put the pressure on. They have to keep the pressure on consistently. They have to run at you, and they need those kills. But if you're 4-Zoomers, your entire lineup is designed to basically say, if we don't want to fight, then you can't make us. They've got heroes that are durable and mobile in most situations. So, I don't know. We've seen Infamous so often play that sort of up-tempo style, but this one feels particularly difficult for them. I think they're going to need Michael on the Earth Spirit in particular to really get going early, and all of their cores are going to have to be active, right? Nobody can really afford to just AFK farm for too long, otherwise you're not getting the pressure that you need.
Well, if they AFK farm, then we're going to end up in that same similar situation where it's going to be Costa Bule pressuring all of your buildings. If there's one thing that
Profitable
they were
engagement.
unsuccessfully able to obtain
So
on the Four
much
Zoomer side,
blood.
is we're not getting
And it's
Costa Bule healing
amazing.
warding a bunch of creeps. We're not going to have that same situation where Husky takes your mid tower at 7 minutes into the game, but we're still going to have to see, because there is a lot of regen coming out from this healing ward that we've already seen twice today, and just prove it just really rolls your buildings. Nobody has really proven how to defend versus this jug so far, except for to just ignore it. But a
Oh,
lot of V's.
what the? Okay. Just normal, standard business. Who doesn't type V 8 times into all chat before the game gets started? But very strange. Meanwhile, interesting play. Z-Freak actually used the Shikuchi to push out early, drop down that Obs ward on the opposing side of the river, and actually it was kind of interesting because the Grimscrow walked past it. A has 2 sentries in his inventory, but it comes out so fast that if you're the Grimstroke, you almost don't sort of suspect that the vision could have been down there that early. As Gustable pushes onto the high ground. Couple of heroes here to take some smacks against him, but nobody really had any significant lockdown, and Gustable had already skilled out the Blade Fury, so realistically speaking, there wasn't much to be done there, but that does now allow 4-Zoomers to push their way into the river, and Infamous aren't really in a position to contest it, so they're going to be giving up a couple of runes there, and it looks like it will be 3 to the 4-Zoomers side, so they start with the slightest of advantages here to begin the laning stage, and we'll see how things progress here as we're going to look towards the bottom lane first. Moo and Z-Freak on an interesting duo, right? Pangolier and Weaver, theoretically speaking, there's a nice bit of sort of aggressive and maybe just straight up annoying plays that they can make with that duo, as we do have a bit of a pause coming out.
Yeah, and in addition to that, both of these heroes are pretty good at escaping away from both the Dawnbreaker and that Inkswell. They just need to be a little bit careful. Of course, early on is when they're going to be at their weakest, but get a few levels, and then suddenly the lane is going to be turned on this Grimstroke, and A needs to be incredibly careful with their positioning. We've already seen a bunch of times in this tournament, whenever that swarm is just on you for what feels like not that much time at all, you're suddenly at -6, and then you're getting killed by Swash, and you're getting killed by all this physical damage, and there's not much you can do about it.
See really when they look to go. Z-Freak's already trying to get aggressive, pushing forward there with Shikuchi for a last hit or two, and now it's just already going to be tough. I mean, first wave, right? And they're already trying to sort of push their way forward. Moo, he's just going to try and steal a creep wave here. It will presumably stop to get the block on the camp as well, although with the health he's at, he really can't afford to, but he still did get blocks. Actually, did he get... He did. He blocked both of the camps with that one and gets the creep wave all the way back under his tower. So, mission accomplished if you're Moo. The only downside here, his HP did drop relatively low. He's able to heal back up, and that is going to be an important sort of aspect. These heroes on the 4-Zoomer side do not want to spend any significant time on low HP because there's a Bloodseeker over on the other side of the map. So, gonna have to be careful of that, but it seems like for now he'll be just fine.
Yeah, the spot lane is just going to be a waiting game. It's a nice sentry placed by A. Of course, we've seen already the early sentries placed in lane. You just right-click the Weaver, who, well, is hasted, but it feels like he's not that fast. Can't dodge all that much damage, but that's where I think already 4-Zoomers are doing what they do so consistently. They just get the creep wave underneath Moo's tower every single game.
Meanwhile, up top, Michael rolls in, but Kosable was ready for it. He pops the Blade Fury. It's only level 1, however, so it didn't quite have the damage it would have needed. Level 2 Blade Fury, then we're talking about Michael potentially having to back out, but this early, there's not going to be a crazy amount of punish for Michael making those moves. Over on the other side of the map, though, A and Lumiere, they run down Z-Freak. The Swarm kind of came out a little bit too late. Too late to matter there, and Moo, for that matter, wasn't even really in the lane to help out. So they do end up giving up first blood there as Infamous strikes, and not really in the lane we expected. You would sort of think that Michael would be the key to any early aggression, but they're able to find one down bot, and that's going to maybe alleviate a little bit of that early pressure onto Lumiere.
Well, and Lumiere is just simply the best level 2 hero in the game. As soon as you get level 2, it just feels like you can make so many plays with Dawnbreaker. Not just that, you just always have that ink spawn on you, but yeah, Husky.
He's got to sidestep the Blood Right. That's a very nice stomp, and...
Okay, they give up.
Wow, alright. Michael, yeah, he didn't have the roll and didn't want to go any further. So Husky's able to get himself away. Kostami tipping his teammate there for the escape, and, well, honestly, he's not going to miss too much time in the lane, and the Jug should be okay to just kind of hold his own right now against Sacred. So I don't really think this is going to hurt the Elder Titan too much, although I say Kostami could hold. He is trading out damage pretty heavily, but at the end of the day, the Jug's got the healing ward to fall back on, and Sacred... Actually, I was going to say he could just sort of heal himself up. He is doing so now, but you see Husky coming back in, but no Ninja ET here. Not able to get off the stomp, so just looking to reset the lane a little bit. Well,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
On charge comes in. Reaps actually blocking him a little bit, and I do believe A will be taken down. The Inkswell not even going to really hit either. So offlane duo for the side of 4 Zoomers pushing well behind the tower, and at this point kind of giving up really on hitting Lumiere in that play. So just going to sort of know their limits. They're not going to be able to get in onto the Dawnbreaker right now, so we may as well find kills where we can. Meanwhile, up top, speaking of trying to find kills, Sacred and Michael were hoping to get onto Constabile, but doesn't really look like that play's going to work out. They do have a bit of a combo to work with if they can get the roll into the Blood Right, but beyond that point, there's really not too much for them to work with to actually really finish off a kill.
Yeah, they're trying to punish Kostabile before he has level 3 spin, just because that cooldown just drops off the face of the earth. As soon as it's on 26, then it's basically like you have it on 18, but at this point, it's definitely something that you can punish. Unfortunately, they just don't have enough damage. It feels like unless Michael gets Kostabile underneath the tower, you're just going to go for the healing ward reset every single time, and unfortunately, it's Elder Titan as your position 5, so it's not like you can get aggressive on him really either, especially when you're in double melee lane. He's just so fast.
So we've seen, honestly, a fair bit of skirmishing between the squads for, 5 minutes in, but just the 1 kill per team. So they're certainly swinging at this early point, but just not really making contact. So to a certain degree, I kind of like the instinct, right, to look for the fights. Even if you're not getting the kills right now, both sides really want to push the pace, don't back down from these fights, especially if you're Infamous. We talked about how their lineup really just had to run at their opponents and keep that pressure constant. So the pressure is there, even if it's not breaking through just yet. If you keep on going, eventually it feels like one of those plays is going to work out in their favor. And now, Alone's going to TP up top. They're looking for it. They managed to get the cold snap down onto Husky. The roll is not going to hit, but that's because the tornado hits first and sets up for the Blood Right. Sacred finds the kill, and this is going to be very important for the game plan for Infamous. Alone, as we say so often with these Invokers, you want to make the rotations, but they have to connect. If you whiff on these plays, the Invoker gets hit harder than most other mid laners, sort of missing those opportunities.
Yeah, and it's a really easy target on the Husky, especially if you can hit him with the tornado after he gets the spear rescinded. But like we keep saying, you have to get those plays and you have to make them work for you. He kind of lost out in that first game because he was looking for the plays that 4 Zoomers weren't giving him. It's the same situation here, except his build isn't playing against him. The only unfortunate thing is the Gunner is just going to farm away in that small camp, recovering the entire time. But this is a nifty smoke. Husky smokes him out of mid. They're going for them all bottom.
They want onto Lumiere. They've got that ghost ship to work with, so Lumiere, can he somehow time? No, not even a little bit. It's just going to be a relatively straightforward kill. It's a level 3 Grimstroke. There's not a whole lot he was going to be able to do there either way, and a well-executed gank from 4 Zoomers just a few moments after they had really suffered the same fate in their own safe lane. They jump forward, and Lumiere is going to take well, a bit of a tumble there. Finished off, and Moo... I don't really think he's going to be able to get too much significant damage on the tower right now, but he is sticking around, and he's going to go for the Rolling Thunder. Wants to push onto A. Lumiere's TPing back in, but I'm not really sure if it's going to be enough. A should still be going down here. It's just a matter of whether Lumiere can get some sort of kill in exchange. He will be able to do so, but at this point, well, A hadn't been finished off yet, but Gunnar stuck around, comes in for the kill, but now Moo gets hit up by that Rupture as Sacred makes his presence known in this fight, and they will be able to finish that one off. Alone gets the kill, and overall, the trade-off works relatively well there. You lose A, but you get 2 kills in exchange, and you were able to get those other cores involved. So Infamous are making those rotations early and often, trying to get all these heroes involved in these fights. But speaking of fights, middle lane, Gunnar tries to push it onto Michael. They do connect with the Ghost Ship, but the Solar Guardian is there, acting as that defensive buffer. Now Gunnar has to try and fall back, but there's just too many heroes here, so he'll lay out for the kill instead. He did manage to get it, but... well, Infamous, they were so focused on Husky that they're kind of going to let Gunnar walk away.
Yeah, Gunner's going to be fine, of course. Okay, has the Torrent, but just a harass. Doesn't really do anything. It's not even a high-level Torrent. Not much they could do there. Z-Freak, I think got pressured into taking the rune there from Gunnar. So something weird just happened on that bottom rune.
Yeah, hold up. He's got the DD. Gunnar had... I mean, he has an empty bottle. That did get a little bit strange, but... oh well. Z-Freak's got double damage. We'll see what they can do with that. It's a 4-man smoke, and... they're making their way bot. Realistically speaking, there's no target here whatsoever. It's just Kosable hitting onto a tier 1, so... well, I guess they're hoping someone TP's down here, but... once they realize there's no heroes in position, Gunner's just gonna say, screw it, let's go for the tower.
Yeah, they're just placing, I think, a little bit of vision here. They're getting in deep. I think Z-Freak has a ward. This is just set up for whenever they inevitably collapse on the mid lane. If think that ward, yeah, is outside of the sentry, already placed there by Infamous. So anyone who walks towards this bottom jungle is going to be underneath Forzoomer's eyes. I think that's also where they're just trying to get as much space for Costabile as possible. They're really good at knowing when to give up on this top tower, at least with their safe laner. Because Moo's looking for a fight. He wants Secret early.
Gonna try for it. They've got a TP coming in from Gunner as well, but the Rupture is going to be there, so Moo, he's going to have to cancel that early, but Sacred's still getting hit up. The Bloodright, though, will be thrown down. That's pushing everyone away. And Alone wants this kill. Look at him continuing to push his way forward. Moo, though, not being taken down just yet. He needs reinforcements, and there it is. Michael comes in with the snipe out with that, with the Boulder Smash, and actually going to try to push back in. They've got Gunner. They hit him with the Cold Snap into the roll forward, into the Inkswell, even the Solar Guardian coming in from Lumiere. That is going to be enough for them to finish it off. Gunner gets picked, and Alone, he's still on the hunt here. Tornado comes through. Husky able to dodge it. That should be an end to the fighting, but Infamous, oh, they bring basically everyone. Sacred got into a really tough spot, but with so many heroes coming in to back him up, they're able to turn it around. They find the kills and the tower.
Yeah, that was a huge tornado from Alone. If Alone doesn't clip those 2 heroes coming in, then Gunner gets the boat, you get the torrent, everything just ruins Sacred, and then that's probably the push dead for a little bit there, but the way that got executed was just absolutely perfect, as well as getting Lumiere involved, as Lumiere could keep on finding opportunities where he shows up to these fights, and then suddenly Takunka can't handle another stun, or, oh, on the roof. Okay.
Michael rolls in. There's the kick. Forces out the spin. Costabile, though, is still very low on HP. Can they finish him off? Well, I think so. I mean, he went for the spin, but he didn't TP out. So, yeah. That was a bit of a strange one. The timing didn't quite work out for him, as Costabile will be finished off. And now they've got an X from Gunner, but yeah, there's zero follow-up there. Once he realizes there's still enemies in the area, I don't really think he wanted to go in for that play. So Infamous, they're able to find themselves a nice kill. They are looking towards the middle lane, trying to get a little bit of extra damage in here, but I don't think this is really going to be enough to threaten much of anything. But you have created more space. Lumiere working in the jungle. He is looking for that Echo Saber as that first item, so just trying to make sure he remains in a position to sort of contribute to these engagements, right? 1-1-4 stat line so far, so they have kept him involved. They've got Alone in a similar position at 2-0-4, and Sacred 0 deaths on his Bloodseeker as well. So this is the pace of play we said that they needed, and so far it's working out for them.
Yeah, and Lumiere with the Echo Saber already finished up. As soon as we find an opportunity, he is looking to Solar Guardian out of base. It just came up. He just TP'd back. He wants his teammates to start a fight pretty soon here. I think this is a pretty nice smoke from Infamous. It's going to dodge out the vision, but if they sync up with Sacred, they should know at least a little bit here. They know that Sacred's coming bottom, and that might spook anyone away from this bottom lane.
Husky trying to sort of break that play up, but Michael rolls his way forward. They get the cold snap down immediately afterwards. The silence comes out. Even the Spirit Vessel, recently finished off by Alone, being deployed, and this feels like a big moment for Infamous to try and push their way for more. As they do get eyes on Costable, they're going to be able to hit him up with the Rupture. He'll go for the spin TP out, and that will get him home, but I mean, that's still pressure, right? Costable had to back off. He did not TP all the way back to the base, at least, so he will continue to farm up in the jungle, but with him not on the front line, you do see Infamous trying to make plays elsewhere. They're looking for Moo in the middle lane. They get the silence down onto him, but they're not able to finish that initiation, and now Costable says, I want back in, and Infamous aren't going to give him that fight. They back themselves away a little bit too far on the other side of the river, considering they hadn't taken the tier 1 yet, so they back off, they'll reset, things are going to go okay for them, but on the 4 Zoomers side, I mean, their cores are farming very well. They're giving up some kills here and there, but you look at Gunner, you look at Costable, they're in solid positions.
Yeah, and it really is going to be whether or not Infamous can find the kills onto this mid tower, because with this Dawnbreaker, as much as we can praise him, Lumiere, you know, being more active in these fights, especially early on, he is not going to help you push down these objectives any easier. If he was on a different hero, then maybe you wait for, let's say, a little item timing and then you go for it. He's almost like, I don't want to call it worse Monkey King, but that's what it feels like. It's much more difficult for them to find their opportunity to actually push in and get these plays started, and that's where Alone is starting to grasp a little bit harder at these plays in the side lane. But someone has always been top on this 4 Zoomer side, whether or not it's been Gunner or Zfreak, and they're gonna look for Gunner.
That's the play that they wanted. He tries to toggle the armlet. Ghost Ship comes out defensively as well, and oh, they missed with a tornado, and now Gunner, he might actually be able to make a break for it. He's falling back. His teammates are coming in. Infamous, they want to try to reset. They've got that rupture down onto the Pangolier. He is trapped in place. Sunstrike comes through for the kill, so they still managed to get a core kill there. It's just not the one that they initially wanted, but that's still big for them. And now, TP down bot, Lumiere. If he can just keep Costable sort of in his sights, maybe he can make something happen, but if it really does get bad here for the Jug, that spin TP is up again, so you're hoping for the best, but I really don't know what kind of play Lumiere can make.
Yeah, that's exactly what they wanted. They found the kill. It wasn't the Jug that was up top. It was actually someone that was tangible. That was someone you could actually hit, but unfortunately, even the Celestial Hammer missing there, just not having that slow, it's very unfortunate that Gunner gets to walk out in a very dire circumstance, because that's time that could have been spent fishing for a kill in the mid lane that Sacred has been trying to finish up his Aghanim Scepter, and he is gonna have an Aghanim Scepter very shortly here on the Bloodseeker, and that is incredibly obnoxious to deal with. Not to mention, there's a Grimstroke in the game, so we might have 3 ruptured people per fight, which is just going to be devastating for the 4 Zoomer side. That's also where if they can get these tankier items, Gunner is only 1 component away from having that BKB, and then suddenly, are you really killing a BKB'd ghost-shipped Kunkka in an actual team fight? I don't think so, because to draw it back to that aspect of Infamous's draft, they don't have the highest natural damage. They don't have burst. Everything is dot. Everything is whether or not they can take a fight 15 seconds in the future from now. And I think that's where 4 Zoomers, if they can just ignore them for the time being, it might just be an opportunity big enough for them to kind of move past this big power spike. I think Zfreak's can hit up, but
that's a lot of damage onto him. The silence is still there. Sacred comes in to finish it, and yeah, that's the power that this lineup does have. You mentioned there's not a lot of bursts, and that was still the case. They didn't exactly insta-kill that Weaver, but they get the roll into the slow, into the silence, into another silence, into the blood ride over and over again, so they do at least have that going for them. That doesn't really help against the BKB Gunner, as you were mentioning earlier, but you still have the potential to pick off some of those supports. It just requires maybe a little bit more time than usual, but as we said, Infamous just need to keep the pressure on. They find that kill, and now they're looking to push out the middle lane. They really do need this tower. 17 minutes in, they haven't taken it yet, and For Zoomers, they don't want to let it go without a fight. Moo's here. Gunner's rotating his way in. They even get a TP that is canceled from Costabile. So not actually going to make it down there, as Lumiere was able to sort of force him to cancel that. But that means Lumiere is not here either. Never mind. Solar Guardian. He's right into the middle of the fight, jumping his way forward as they take down Gunner. What else can they get here? That stomp sort of broke the momentum just that little bit. But I'm not really sure they're going in for much of anything right now. They found Gunner. That's absolutely big, but they need to wait for their creep wave to try and go for the tower again.
Yeah, and more importantly, they already traded rollout for that rupture. They have another one on deck as well if they need to actually commit it anywhere, but that was so nice from Lumiere, making sure the Jug doesn't actually show up to that mid-tower defense. And if they take out Gunner, Gunner is the mid-tower defense. He's the one killing these creep waves. He's the one standing in front. So just very nicely executed, and the plays they can make while this BKB is still not there yet for Kunkka, but once he gets it, again, it's so much harder to actually make the kills happen whenever you have the Spirit Vestal Invoker. It's why we see Alone already transitioning back into the Midas.
Oh, Lumiere, Ace Rune on him, pushing his way forward. Didn't get the Ink Swell onto anybody, and well, they have the ward, so they knew Costabile was there, but getting onto this Jug is just going to be so difficult, and that is another aspect here that needs to be taken into account. We've been talking about Gunner and how hard it would be to kill him. Then you look to other targets, right? If we can't kill the Kunkka, what can we kill? Costabile is not really a great option, and, well, I mean, sure, maybe we can bully Moo a little bit. That's certainly going to be a viable option for them. And speaking of bullying Moo, they are making the jump here in the north side jungle. They need a little bit more damage for the kill, though, and Moo was able to get off the Rolling Thunder, so actually he doesn't have the mana to TP, though, so this is going to get kind of awkward. Oh, now he's got the mana. He's going to go for it. Can they kill him off in time? No, they can't, and Moo, it was a long chase, but it's one that he will survive. Gets himself out, and now you see them turning their attention over towards the middle lane. Sacred is here all by himself. They'll hit him up with the X into the Torrent and the Ghost Ship. And will the Solar Guardian be enough? For now, the answer is yes. Gunner, meanwhile, was hit by the Rupture, so he really can't afford to run right now. He's got to just hold his position. And, Lumiere hit up by the Omni Slash, trying to fall back, pulling Costabile with him. Meanwhile, the X was deployed, so the Dawnbreaker's pulled back into the fight. They need to be able to save him. The Inkswell is going to come through, and Costabile, he does get the damage. Spins his way forward. They will find that first kill. And the Weaver, wow. Z-Freak all the way under the tower to finish off that kill onto Michael. He was able to get it, though, and now, without that Earth Spirit, a lot of the control for Infamous really just isn't going to be there, and for Zoomers are the ones pushing their way forward looking for objectives.
Yep, and now that the fight's over, level 4 healing ward, everyone is back to full on for Zoomer side. The reset is just so strong. They can tank through Infamous's damage. They just come back even stronger, and this is the problem. They're getting objectives, they're getting more farm. The easiest way to kill Kostabile would just be to get him before he gets a stat-heavy item, and he doesn't have a stat-heavy item just yet, but the next one coming through the pipeline is going to be devastating for Infamous. Not to just mention, but Gunner also didn't die there without his BKB. He's got it coming out on the courier now. Doesn't change the fact that he's gonna still get ruptured whenever that opportunity does arise, but that's where we might need levels on Infamous's side more so than anyone having any more item timings, because right now Sacred, when you're on this Blood Secret, you've got incredible talents when it comes to making your Rupture actually do damage. Same with the Invoker. A lot of the damage now coming from Infamous has stopped. We need to now wait for either our two other heroes to get a few more levels on their bodies, or we need a Lumiere to get this Radiance. Otherwise, there is no good way for us to take a fight at this stage of the game, while for Zoomers are really over the hump. Again, they have kind of moved past that damage timing where the early game's done. The early game is far done, and this mid game does not get any easier for Infamous unless they find some crazy initiation. And look at him.
A little bit too far there with the roll. He's going to get caught out, pulled back in. That Solar Guardian is, well, not only too late, but also on the low ground, so he kind of had to walk up the ramp. Not that there was really an opportunity for a fight, but the placement wasn't fantastic. They are trying to get out of Z-Freak, though. They'll hit him up with the Rupture, so Weaver may be in some trouble. He's got a time lapse. That's going to draw this out a little bit, but he should still be going down. Sacred will get the kill, but, well, at this point, it just feels like in a lot of these circumstances, even when Infamous do find those kills, they're starting to react a little bit more to their opponents instead of trying to really be the team taking the initiative and putting that pressure on. Michael, though,
Islands.
Comes in, they get the silence down. There's going to be the roll. Speaking of rolls, though, Moo in with the Rolling Thunder, and now the fight is going to shift. Michael's in some serious trouble, dropped low and taken down. And Infamous, do they try for it? They get the Soulbind down, double silence comes through, but you need Sacred here with the Rupture, and he wasn't in position, so this really just can't happen. They can't take the fight.
Yeah, and the game, once it starts slowing down, that's where Four Zoomers can do this. They just constantly make plays. They know that if they get any picks here, they're going immediately into the pit. But what do they have? There's no Solar Guardian. They Rupture one. Yeah, it's an illusion. That was just a good bait from Gunner.
Man overboard.
Unfortunate, but, well, this is why you get the Ags, right? You miss one Rupture, you still have another one to work with, so they're not entirely dead in the water here, but Four Zoomers, they're maneuvering their way around. They have eyes on Lumiere. Gunner needs the X, and, well, he's not going to be able to get it off there. The Dawnbreaker would have been in some serious trouble. No BKB, and hadn't finished off the Radiance yet either, so Four Zoomers have maybe a little bit of a window, but now the Radiance is done.
It's time to smoke if you're Infamous. This is the strongest they're going to be for a good while here, and if they don't find something with this, they would be very upset. But I think that Illusion might have seen that. The Illusion was just scouting out on the fringe there of that vision during the daytime, so they're going to retreat to the high ground. Infamous will still take the fight, even though this is a high ground, low ground position, but okay, they see everyone.
Now what do they do with this information? Gunner there, Husky and Z-Freak there as well. You can probably assume the rest of the lineup is in position, but Michael, ooh, he rolls his way in, but the angle, it doesn't get him into the fight, but it also allows him to leave if he didn't find a target, so, well, sort of straddling the line there a little bit. He wanted to go in, but he didn't want to be overcommitted if he did get caught, but now they've got the X, Sacred, okay, Fuel Scepter, gonna get him out of that one, but I mean, a fight is coming, right? One way or another. It's just going to be a matter of who initiates. And C4 Zoomers, they've smoked up, but this may not be for the fight. They're angling towards the pit. Now, Infamous, I do not know if they're aware that this is happening. And even if they are... Okay, Sunstrike's going to scout it out, but now they've got to rush their way over. Michael, he's in a position. If he could time up the roll. And yeah, Four Zoomers aren't going to take the risk. They're actually backing out now, but it's turned into a stalemate around the Roche pit.
Healing Ward's expiring as well. This is becoming a more and more ideal situation for Infamous, but they're looking for the supports. They want to catch Husky or Z-Freak before with one of these silences to get him off deck.
MP comes through. Sunstrike scanned once again. And Sacred looking for the Rupture. He threw it, I believe, yeah, onto Cosable, but the Jug can just spin in place and not really bother with the damage. Moo, meanwhile, Rolling Thunder's getting him a little bit further forward, but this isn't really a position where Four Zoomers want to fight. They're instead trying to fall back, but there's going to be the Soulbind coming out. The Rupture's going to be doubled up. The Silence comes through as well, but Husky covering with the Earth Splitter, pushing that initial sort of surge forward back, and
it's getting lower, but Healing Ward.
Healing Ward's back in. There is another Rupture up as the Bloodseeker was able to wait out that cooldown, but now A has been hit up. The X into the Ghost Ship. They take him down. Roshan Bell alone.
Got it.
Alone gets it. Yeah, he's got the Aegis. Michael is, well, he was targeted by that Omni, but it jumps over to the Invoker, and sure, he's dead, but he's got 2 lives to work with, but now Lumiere's the one in trouble. He is trying to get himself out of the fight. It will turn around to find the kill onto Husky, but he is still getting tracked down. I think the DOT will be enough to finish him off. But Infamous, I mean, even with the Aegis going their way, this is not really a great fight for them. Malone has to try and just get out, and I'm not sure he's going to make it. That Free Fire Torrent will connect, but they don't actually have the detection, so...
Did I mix my magics?
No. Your Invoker gets away. You do keep the Aegis out of your opponent's hands. That has to count for quite a bit here, but you do still lose a couple of heroes, and all they got was the kill on the Elder Titan, and now it looks like Michael is potentially going to have to be sacrificed as well.
Yeah, that was a sick force effort. He even got the Roche kill with that. He scouted it out with the Sunstrike at the beginning of that fight, 4-stepped in, got the Aegis somehow. I don't even know how he did it, but that is massive because what we saw before is as soon as Costa Rica had that Aegis, we lost all of our outer towers on the Infamous side. Unfortunately, that was just so costly, and that was with spells hitting. I think once Lumiere has this BKB, he's going to be confident enough to stand in these fights, but I'm really surprised he's not disassembling his Echo Saber here for the faster BKB. I feel like he needs it now, and one's dead.
He didn't care. He was hit by the Rupture, but he has a chance for the Invoker kill, so he just straight up eats the damage. I think he got the shield crash in there as well, so he was taking a little bit less damage. That sort of sets up the continued roll, and with Alone down, I'm not really sure what else Infamous can do. Sacred is sort of zooming around a little bit, looking for some opening, but not sure they have the damage, but they do get the Soulbind, sets up the double rupture. Michael rolls forward now as well, so they'll take down Z-Freak, but they really do need Costabile. Without that kill, this isn't really going to be enough of a difference maker. It doesn't move that needle enough. It's nice for Sacred to find the kill, and seeing this combo actually work out between himself and the Grimstroke is always encouraging, but you just feel like they've lost their opening to be the team applying that constant pressure. They're down by 4K, they don't have map control, so they're going to have to find alternative means to really get themselves back into this, and they're at least buying more time, right? Lumiere continues to farm. Sacred is actually highest net worth hero on his own side, just picked up a Skull Basher, so they are still making progress, but it feels like the initial game plan where we're going to be aggressive, we're going to put our opponents on the back foot, that's already sort of passed them by.
Yeah, as I say, we lost our easy win. Our moment to win this game in 22 minutes is far gone. There was the hero play at Roche, but Alone is still working on himself. We need more levels. That is the biggest problem. Infamous is a lineup bound by their ability to get kills and accelerate themselves that way throughout the map, because no one is a true creep hitter. That's why Sacred is kind of elapsed both of his other cores. Lumiere is trying with this Radiance, but that's where we're also, again, waiting for this BKB before we have any confidence to actually stand in these fights, where there's so many heroes that are confident to do that on the Forzoomer side because they just built tankier. They just dealt with the counter matchup by being unkillable. And now Moo has a full Lincoln Sphere, so he is very confident to stand in the middle of these engagements. He's going back for the Blink Dagger now because, of course, Blink on Pango is just amazing, especially if you can catch up either the Grimstroke or the Bloodseeker before that fight actually gets started. But I think Sacred having to go for the pseudo carry build on the Bloodseeker is not a very comforting sign. I think they're really going to start getting, again, that vice grip that Forzoomers put on their opponents tighter and tighter, especially once they're able to cut this mid wave and then just refocus that pressure onto either bottom or mid.
Yeah, it's nice that Sacred has the farm to sort of support a build like this, but the fact that they feel the need for it is maybe a little indicative of where their lineup stands. So, see if it pays off. They are trying to push the top lane, but now they see bot under attack. Costabile comes in, takes the tower to half HP, and then really walks away, so just feels like Infamous, they really can't force a fight right now if they want it. They can get onto some supports maybe, if they can get that rupture down, but in terms of actually forcing a 5v5 that they are, I suppose, the aggressors in, that's a little bit more difficult. But Michael, okay, they're going to roll in. They're looking for Z-Freak first, trying to take him down as quickly as possible, so they do take out the Weaver. Now Michael rolling in again. They're on to Husky. They're going to try to finish him off as well with a secondary stun. That Earth Splitter really doesn't hit onto much of anything, and now Alone coming in with the magic damage. Husky will fall. They get the Rupture onto Gunner, but Costabile comes in with the healing ward, and they should be able to clear out enough space to stay safe for now. But Sacred, he's got another Rupture. He could go back in. He'll throw this one onto Costabile. The X, though, does come through into the Torrent, but that means Gunner gives away his position. Lumiere is going to jump in onto him. Starbreaker gets in that temporary magic immunity, but Gunner at this point realizes he doesn't have backup. His teammates are underneath the tower. He has to TP away, but that means Costabile is left to fend for himself mid. They'll take him down, and they're on to Moo as well. They're going to be able to stun him up. The Bloodright is thrown under his feet, and Moo will fall. Infamous. I mean, they needed that so damn badly, and it's actually a bit of a domino effect. That was not the sort of 5v5 that we were describing previously. They get in onto targets really one at a time, and Zoomers, rather than just cutting their losses and backing away, try to force the engagement, and the results sort of speak for themselves. Not a great outcome. Gunner?
Yeah.
They're still chasing.
BKB.
Sunstrike's even coming in. It's a bit off the mark, but it won't matter. They still get the kill. Gunner, I don't know if that's a smart idea. As you said, no BKB. That's probably a situation where you just want to back off. And now all of a sudden, here come Infamous, right? They find the teamfight win. They get the staggered kill onto Gunner, so he will not be respawning with the rest of his lineup, which means they're free to take the objectives. They've already pushed through the tier 2. The tier 3 is now under attack, and all of a sudden, we were talking about the ability to alacrity up a hero. The Bloodseeker kind of feels like the one that should be alacritied here, maybe over Lumiere, based on some of the ways he's built out this hero, but Lumiere is going to be the one, and to get it either way, though, They get through the melee racks. I don't really think they care too much about the range right now. There is a Forge Spirit hitting it, but they want in for the side of 4 Zoomers. But now that Rupture coming into play once again. I think it was onto Costabile rather than Mu, so not going to be able to immediately punish that Rolling Thunder, but at the same time, that Rolling Thunder doesn't get 4 Zoomers into any sort of engagement. Infamous pull out with everyone, and they got so much there. Full middle lane of racks, a massive swing on the net worth, and a little bit of control now falling into their hands.
Yeah, and all the way back to when they find that first engagement, they kill both of the supports off instantly. They get on top of Gunner, which is a very uncomfortable position to be in if you're this Kunkka. You don't want heroes just standing on top of you. That's why there's so many tools naturally in your kit to get people away from you. It's just when 4 Zoomers are forced to react to their opponents, they're just, I think, a little bit slow right now. That was Infamous just not biting anything for so long, and then suddenly they just execute, and it all comes back to Michael Earthspirit just playing around these silences that no one aside from this BKB have built to purge. No one has a Dispel on the 4 Zoomer side, so if these are hitting, it just is impossible to deal with. And Z-Freak, is he really going to get hunted down this far? Nice time lapse, but
that gets him into the Rupture range, so Z-Freak really still can't afford to move, and they're going to be able to bring him down, bring him down. Nope, they won't do anything of the sort. Sacred actually gets picked off. There's going to be the kill finally as Michael snipes it out with that Boulder Smash, but you've lost Sacred for this. You've lost those Ruptures, and now a lot of your control is just gone, and yeah. Wise choice. Michael has to be left. Alone falls back. You just get everybody out at that point, and I don't know. That just felt a little bit weird. The time-lapse was interesting from the Weaver. It puts him directly into the line of fire for Infamous, but at that point, everyone's just got to sort of focus in, kill the Weaver, and be done with it, because they take too long, and they end up losing one because of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think they were a little bit too split across the map, maybe slightly too happy with their victory. Lumiere even loses his courier with the BKB on it, I believe. But fortunately for Infamous, Roche will not be respawning anytime soon. So these kills won't immediately mean their downfall. It's not like 4 Zoomers are going to have a second Aegis and then suddenly the game is just over. Biggest item right now is the Costabile does have a Scotty now. Just means that no more prolonged fights. If Costabile is actually able to hit up versus Lumiere, I think Lumiere pretty convincingly loses that fight. And oh, he's got a Solar Guardian defensively. Yeah. He had to run.
Not ideal circumstances, but the alternative was death. There were multiple heroes coming at him, so Dawnbreaker is able to fall back. Meanwhile, Alone got the tier 2 tower top with his Forge Spirit, so a little bit of that split push play coming in. Alone now also has the BKB. He was able to pick that up a moment or two ago, so the Invoker, a hero that already has been more active than we usually see, but now with the BKB, he has to be so much less afraid of some of the lockdown. Obviously, the physical damage is still an issue, but things like the X, things like the Rolling Thunder will no longer sort of disrupt that teamfight rhythm, although Sacred, he's going to get hit up here. Eul's Scepter will be popped defensively. He needs the reinforcements, so his teammates have to get here in time. They're not going to be able to, and Sacred is dead. He does have buyback, however, so we'll see what develops around the pit. We're still 45 seconds out, though, from the respawn, but Infamous need to make sure they're not going to lose more. Michael TP's away. A gets out. Actually, Michael didn't TP. He rolled away. Now it looks like he'll go for the TP. Z-Freak sees him, but Z-Freak really should not be able to do a whole lot here. Michael's just going to continue to roll, but now Mu, he's into the fight, and oh, look at Michael go. He just smoked himself and dusted around him, really trying to make sure that nobody's chasing, and it looks like he is going to be able to make his way out of this. Meanwhile, in the river, Alone did not manage to get that Invis rune away from the Kunkka, so does have that bottled up. Now Alone wanders into range of a Sentry Ward, and this is a similar chase in the exact same position. They couldn't catch up to Michael, and doesn't look like they're going to catch Alone either.
Yeah, it's really awkward. 4 Zoomers don't want to be caught running to that top side of the map, but Sunstrike scouts out the Roche, and they gotta come. They gotta go now, but Lumiere needs to TP at the tier 2, otherwise there's nothing. He's got the Solar Guardian, but okay, here we go.
Oh, Michael tried to roll in, but it's blocked by Husky, so there's not going to be a Solar Guardian in there. They did get the credit for the Roche kill, but Costabile is the one to get the Aegis. They do have Sacred coming in now, though. He's dropped the Rupture down onto 2. The Solar Guardian is going to be there as well, but Lumiere going to take that Omni Slash to the face. They need to spread out the damage. They are going to be able to do so. And now Costabile a little bit too far away from his teammates, but Lumiere doesn't want this. He's looking to TP out. He is going to be able to make it home, but that means Infamous just have to bail. Alone, clearing out. The Delta Split is on in full force. And good news for Infamous is that they really did seem to get everyone away. Michael falls, but the rest of the lineup is sort of still up and running, but they need to be careful. Gunner, he was making his way up there. He was hoping to keep that fight going, and they certainly can't get onto the Bloodseeker, but A may not be quite as fortunate. He's trying to sort of hide out, look for the TP. Husky, though, doesn't get the stomp because A is able to blink himself out. That does mean he has to cancel the TP, though, which allows Husky to continue chasing, but A, he is certainly going to make him work for it, and Husky can't actually catch up. The silence prevents him from going any further, and Infamous do get everybody out of there, but that... well, it wasn't the best response to the Roche attempt, but they're not in a horrible position, right? Michael's back in. They know, even with 2 lives up on the Juggernaut, they're capable of getting through most of the rest of the lineup. It's just a matter of whether they really even want to let that fight happen.
Yeah, it's amazing that they only lose Michael in that fight, actually. Everyone was just barely able to get out in a lot of those situations. I'm really surprised from Sacred that we're not seeing him also go for that BKB. I feel like this X has just been so obnoxious for them, but still, with Costabile having an Aegis, he can just claim all of these outer towers. There is not really anything to stop him at this point. They're, making the roleplay on a Sacred?
Oh man. That Earth Splitter just absolutely ruins him. That's a half his HP gone right then and there, so Sacred will fall. Alone was able to split push, so he gets the tier 2 in the bottom lane, and I mean, he could keep pushing, but
no glyph.
This is not a race that they'll win, and yeah, as you said, there's no glyph on Infamous. That's going to be a roll-in from Michael, though, into the Solar Guardian. They're trying to take this fight. There is a buyback from Sacred as well, so they really do want to push their way forward. They've got the Soul Bind in. They need the Ruptures coming out. Costabile is able to get the spin off, though, so he's going to be okay for now, but he's not looking for any sort of retreat. He knows he's got 2 lives to work with, and the friendly push in from Z-Freak hitting him with that time lapse is just not going to be enough. They do find the kill. Meanwhile, the Rupture onto Gunner. They get the kickback onto him as well, so he lost a hell of a lot of HP, and now he's isolated from his teammates. So is Costabile, as the Juggernaut will fall, and this is turning around. Lumiere's pushing in, going for the Starbreaker. They're taking down all of the cores. And for Zoomers, they just... I can't really think of any other phrase to use other than botch that. It goes horribly as Lumiere cleans up 1 final kill into Z-Freak for the triple. I don't think they showed nearly enough respect there to the setup from Infamous. Those Ruptures came out onto so many different targets, and the weirdest thing for me, I think, is Z-Freak using the time-lapse on the first life. I know it's a 20-second cooldown, but he uses that time-lapse, they get the Aegis burnt, and by the time that ability would be back up again, your Weaver's been pushed so far away from his teammate that now you can't save him anyway.
They do have buys. They don't want to use the buys, but they do have buys. But with Glyph forced so early, there's no way they're getting that creep wave out of mid now. And the game is flipped in a very similar fashion to where Infamous just found a few stray kills, and now suddenly both of your racks are under siege right now. I think it'd go a little bit faster if they were with each other, but
Yeah.
It still is just a fantastic turnaround. And Costabile and Gunner, I don't think they have... I guess Costabile does have the buy. Of course, he doesn't want to use it, but this is all just to defend this water max.
Michael rolls in.
Getting greedy.
Z-Freak's going to get hit up. Sunstrike's coming through. It's not going to connect, but they get the Deafening Blast in there, and Z-Freak's dead. That's a dieback from him. Moon, meanwhile, hit up by the Rupture, so he's going to take a trip back to the fountain.
Oh, it's too early. They used the roll too early. They're Megas. I
mean, we're literally watching it happen, and I still just want to say how. This is incredible. Infamous, as you said, they get the Megas. Yeah, you're the sacrificial lamb. Sorry, my guy, but he is going to get pulled back into the Earth Splitter, but who cares? A's life is gladly given there. They'll get every other member of the team out, and I just can't shake the feeling that this should not have happened. 4 Zoomers, from one ill-advised handling of a fight to now suddenly dealing with Mega Creeps and a 10k deficit.
Yeah. Now it just feels like they were so tightly gripped around Costa Bile not spending his buyback there. They thought that they could hold, but Infamous also just split it up perfectly. I thought they were getting greedy going for both, but then they so successfully won the fight bottom by just finding the Weaver first. And I think it all goes back to no one itemizing to purge any of these silences. There's no Yule Scepters, there's no Lotuses. It just means that any time this grip lands, Michael is just way too effective. And now your Megas. Infamous have all the space and time to work with now. Of course, it's going to be hard for them to kill your tier 4 towers. You're definitely going to make them work for it, but you're just playing at such a big deficit now. Of course, Zoomers can always stomp to the other side of the map and take a few racks themselves, but this is just a very, very different game now.
And yeah, at this point, win or lose, MVP of the match for Infamous has got to be Michael, right? Every time they make a play, right? They got the credit for the Roche kill. It was because Michael rolled in. They find that fight in the top lane. It's because Michael pushed in and got the kickback onto Gunnar that sort of isolated the cores. That time, he's the one jumping in onto Z-Freak and then dropping the silence. It's just 100% Michael, in some instances, sort of going in himself and then just assuming everyone's coming in with him. And so far, those assumptions have sort of worked in his favor. But now, if you're 4Zoomers, well, what do? They did pick themselves up a BKB on Costabile, which... a BKB purchase on the Juggernaut. That should tell you quite a bit about where we are in the game right now. Not feeling safe with just the Blade Fury, as they are going to try and make a move, pushing onto Michael, but the Hex comes in. That buys time for Michael to roll away, and 4Zoomers are now the ones sort of whiffing on these initiations. A now comes back in for the Soulbind. That's going to set up into the double rupture. Michael, meanwhile, rolling back in. They're looking for the damage, but the BKB comes through, so Costabile is going to try and fight here. Going on to Lumiere, who will try to Solar Guardian back to the outpost. Does do so successfully, but they need to be able to heal him up before they go back in. Not really sure what means they have to do that at the moment. All the while, Michael at this point went from initiating to just trying to run interference. He gets taken down, but he'll immediately buy back TP to that outpost. And they're going to look to reinitiate, but again, Lumiere still isn't really being healed up there. They need somebody to be able to heal him, because he doesn't really have any lifesteal on his own.
Yeah, and Michael buys back because he knows if they keep this fight going, there's going to be way too much creep pressure on 4Zoomers. They're just going to get crushed in their own base, but unfortunately they ran out of gas. They didn't have any more ruptures. They didn't have anywhere else for Lumiere to go. I think once Lumiere has an item like Satanic, then it's going to be a lot easier for him to stand up. He's in the AC right now just to make sure that Costabile doesn't do all too much versus his teammates, but that's where this game is still not over. Infamous still need to win it. They still need to actually push on and get the building damage done, something that they've only been able to accomplish whenever all of the 4Zoomers members were dead. So if they can't find those picks anymore once 4Zoomers start the turtle, then this game could definitely stall out for a very long time.
They need to be able to make that final push in, but we're starting to see the tools coming into play for them. The Invoker already had a Scythe of Ice. A now has one up as well. So you are going to have somewhere between potentially 2 and 3 hexes based on how the Soulbind comes down. So that is going to look pretty good. Wouldn't be surprised if the Grimstroke maybe look for maybe something like the Aghanim Scepter for the Dark Portrait. Obviously, he'd have to farm a hell of a lot for it, but if we do get into that, 55 to 60 minute range and they haven't broken through, then Dark Portrait of Juggernaut would certainly do a pretty substantial amount of damage. But for now, this is still a position 5 Grimstroke. Don't want to get too far ahead. He's looking for just something like the Force Staff for the utility and the extra damage as well, if they can get the Ruptures down onto targets. So don't want to go for maybe the home run play right now when you can go for something a little bit cheaper and easier to pick up, but may have to start looking in that direction if 4Zoomers can really delay this. And right now, I mean, they're dealing with these Mega Creeps relatively well, so if Infamous don't add any pressure with their own push-in, this is not just going to sort of whittle the defenses down with Megas alone.
No, definitely not, and that's where if they can just continuously push out these waves, they are slowly but surely getting a lot of farm all across the map. That's the worst part of Megas, is that there are always creeps now in your opponent's base, so the farm comes to them. It's very simple for Gunnar to get an easy 200, 300 gold by just farming Megas, but yeah,
Costabile, they're done. Wait, they kicked him. They kicked him a little bit further back instead of into their own lineup, so now this is getting a little bit awkward, and that's unfortunate. Going to get picked off. The Omni did get used for that, though. Costabile really wanted to secure that kill. Maybe he was hoping it could bounce if there were any other targets there, but to be honest, that's just going to be a big kill because, A, he's so much of the lockdown for them. Without the Soulbind, without that sort of double silence, double hex play, not really sure they want to push any further forward, and he bought out for that, so doesn't have any money for buyback. That's going to give Zoomers a lot of time now to sit back and try to build themselves up a little bit more, as Kostamle, I mean, yeah, you're going against a Mega Creeps, the Mjolnir is certainly going to help him get through that.
Look at Gunner. He's got
God.
a pocket rapier. Yeah, Michael.
He just rolled his way in there. I'm not sure he even realized the jug was there, and he is going to get picked off. Alone was coming over, but it's too late, so Michael goes down. Gem hits the deck. Husky able to pick that one up. So a little bit of an extra gold swing, and now that's 2 heroes down with no buybacks, but Infamous, they're going to try and actually just straight up sneak Roshan here.
Yeah, and it is a sneak because Zoomers could actually make an appearance here. I think, unfortunately for them, though, not only do they not know about it, but it is just a little bit too fast by Infamous. It's a refresher shard. That's honestly huge in this game, whether or not it's going to be the double hex coming in from the Invoker, or it could be, yeah, 4 ruptures now that Infamous get to work with. So there could be a universe we live in where Zoomers are all ruptured, depending on how the Soulbind actually ends up going, but is that going to be enough for Infamous to actually break the base? Well, we'll see, I guess, in the next 5 minutes or so.
See if they can make the play. Meanwhile, yeah, you mentioned Gunner. Has not combined it yet, but rapier parts are there. So if it does come down to it, he is going to have that available. Is Lumiere? Okay, that... Where's your friends? He is completely alone in this scenario. They are starting to bring reinforcements over, but by the time anyone gets here, Lumiere's already on the retreat. Sacred does come in. Oh no, he tried to eat the cheese, but he still had the Spirit Vessel on him, I think. So that didn't really do much of anything. First life gone, cheese eaten, and in one fell swoop, Zoomers take just about everything Infamous gained from Roshan and say, nah. I mean, they still have the Refresher Orb, but... or Refresher Shard, excuse me, but no second life, no cheese bailout. It was weird. I'm not sure what Lumiere was really doing there all by himself.
Yeah, now we're going to barrel towards a situation where, what do we do? Our Aegis is gone. Our easy way to siege onto the tier 4s, or at least poke enough to get Glyph, is now no longer guaranteed. I think Infamous are just losing their heroes a little bit too recklessly. They don't really have the best defensive items. They never really had the best defensive items, but now it just feels like, again, Zoomers are getting the control. They're getting the stable footing, and really, with no easy way to push these buildings down, how do you get back onto the high ground? Before, you would have to find either of the 4 Zoomer supports and then start your fight that way, but when they don't have to leave, then there really is no opportunity aside from some crazy smoke play, but even those are becoming very limited. You've got 2 on A, but that's it.
And Infamous, everybody's back up and running, so they are looking to group up this time around, and I think that's been part of their problem, right? Their heroes are just getting caught out way too far from any backup, which I understand trying to maximize maybe farming potential, but we're approaching the 50-minute mark. I don't really know if you can afford to be all by yourself when you have no man advantage, but well, maybe they can maintain cohesion here as Mu is going to try to push his way forward, but by the time he was even out there alone, was already falling back. It just feels... it feels like the longer this goes on, the more and more pressure there is on the Infamous side. 4 Zoomers, I mean, they're going up against Megas. They're sitting here thinking we literally don't have anything left to lose other than the Ancients. So we just sit and we wait, because the situation, technically speaking, can really only improve for them as this game goes on.
Yeah, it feels like Infamous aren't really finding their opportunity to now win this game. It's just going to be the never-ending stall out, and without that Aegis, it really was going to be this Aegis that was going to break the base. Now you might get Roche in 4 minutes and 40 seconds, or you might get it in another 6 minutes, but it still feels like, are we going to need to wait till Michael has a Blink Dagger plus an Ags before we can isolate a hero outside of the fountain? There's just so little space for 4 Zoomers to work with now that it actually ends up helping them. And even though it's a Hex on Costa Vila mid, he knows there's no chance for anyone to follow up once he gets that Lotus Orb. And that is the most important factor here, is Husky has a Lotus Orb. They have a way to get these annoying spells off of them. The danger is just ceasing.
slowly but surely, 4-Zoomers are building themselves up into a better defensible and more confident position. And on the Infamous side, I don't even really know what items they could build that get them into their opponent's base. It just feels like so much of a positioning issue right now as the Earth Spirit going to get jumped in on Michael. Was able to reflect a little bit of that early on with the Lotus, but he is still stuck in the middle of the fight, but he is buying a lot of time. They're not taking him down easily, but now they're going to go in. BKB's popped. Alone is in. Lumiere wants forward as well. They're trying to get onto Costable, trying to finish off that Juggernaut as best as they can. They are stunning him up with multiple Abyssal Blades, but it's just not enough. Lumiere is forced to fall back. Sacred will die as well. His Lotus reflected the Omni, but once it comes to an end, he dies. Lumiere falls as well. Meanwhile, in the base alone was trying to split push and some damage onto the tier 4, but really not enough to warrant that play in the slightest. Infamous will lose 3. And now you got to start feeling so nervous on that Infamous side alone. He's going to try and go for the push-in, but he's got a lot of lockdown. He doesn't have a lot of damage, but he is still trying for it. BKB activated. Gunner continuing to be in a bad spot. And actually, the Rapier was finished, so if he does drop it, that would be huge. You even see Alone, he was actually making space for it just in case, but as it stands, not going to be able to make that play happen. He does get unbelievably close, but Alone at this point, he's a teamfight hero, right? He's not really a pick-off hero. He's not going to go in and just kill Gunner in the 1v1, but you made him a little afraid. I'm not really sure that counts for anything 53 minutes in, but you do come close, and maybe next time if Infamous have anyone there to help out or the threat of the Solar Guardian, then you can pick him off and take out that Rapier, but this time, no luck.
No, none at all. And fortunately for Infamous, that was a fantastic distraction. Of course, almost killing Gunner, forces the entire 4-Zoomer side to come and back him up there. But it still doesn't change your position really in this game at all. No longer really any sizable lead for Infamous. We are now barreling towards our late game situation where I don't know if, say, Flame Dawnbreaker is necessarily going to cut it. And that was with everything thrown at him. They even got the immediate Hex after Z-Freak had used the time-lapse before Costabile got his own BKB off. Like, that was the situation where if they kill Costabile here, the game just looks so much different. The win condition presents itself, and then we might see an actual victory. Of course, 4-Zoomers are still playing versus Megas, so you can never really count out the team that has been Megas. If 4-Zoomers ever want to win this game, they have to kill the Infamous Ancient. In what circumstance will they get that in? Usually by Infamous throwing their bodies at their buildings and then being unsuccessful. So if this game does really grind to a halt, I honestly don't know who it benefits. I feel like it's got to be 4-Zoomers just because they have the more traditional lineup.
I think they have something that's going to work more to their advantage over the longer term as opposed to Infamous. And it is still worth noting Gunner, I mean, he's in with the Rapier, right? There's no undoing that one. He's even queuing up a second one, either for overkill or just in case he loses the first and maybe needs to get back into the fight. That's going to require a hell of a lot more gold for him, but that's what 4-Zoomers have to do right now. They recognize, as you said, there's only so many scenarios that really play into what we want, so we have to be geared in a position that allows us to take advantage if that opportunity does arise. Meanwhile, for Infamous, next Roche, I guess, at this point has to be their best bet, right? Because we've seen they can't break the high ground right now just pushing their way in, and they haven't been able to just go in and force a fight the way that they did to take those racks down in the first place.
Yeah, I think now it might actually just become about Roche, whether or not they can hurl their bodies at 4-Zoomers to at least get buybacks. I think, don't have that refresher shard anymore. I think it was used in that previous engagement, just trying to hold down anyone on 4-Zoomer side desperately. Sacred's even turning around and going for the Wind Waker. And Sacred has not played about around buyback the entire game, by the way. Just incredibly confident in himself, but That's also where, as soon as the entire buyback status lights up gold, it heavily favors the team who's megas. It just means that there really isn't a win condition right now for Infamous to actually play the game. The win condition is for Zoomers forget about the base and then Alone sneaks in and gets a tower, something like that. And Alone can get the rat plays going as soon as he starts to spec into some more right-click based damage. He already does quite a lot, especially when he alacrities himself, but problem is just how do we actually start these fights? Zoomers are looking for another pick here. Oh,
Lumiere on in. Lumiere's going to get hit up. BKB is there, but he hasn't been able to activate it yet. Comes out now, but Burst Player's already in there, so the damage is going to stick. And Lumiere, he's got to turn around and fight, but he's got the Satanic. He's going to heal himself up all the way to full. Sacred, meanwhile, coming in, dropping down that Blood Right, but the Omni's actually going to get reflected, so we've got some just flashing lights and sounds there, and Lumiere's back in, but without the Satanic, he doesn't have the healing. He's going to be taken down, buys back immediately, and he tried to use the Solar Guardian before he died, so he's not going to be able to rejoin his teammates immediately. His teammates, though, they are kind of holding their ground. They took down the Kunkka, they took down Costabile. The Rapier actually was saved for the Dawnbreaker. So Lumiere is able to pick that one up, and now this could be the opening. Buybacks were there for Zoomers, but do they have a second Rapier at this point? No, they don't. They don't have the money for it. So Infamous, they have their shot. They're going to try to push in. Alone is leading that charge, but he is dropping pretty rapidly. He didn't activate his BKB. He thought the Aeon Disc would be enough, but that was not the case. Michael now getting caught out as well. Those two pushed in before the rest of the players arrived, including the player with the Rapier, which... I'm no pro player, I'm not an immortal, but it feels like most of the time if a teammate has a Rapier, maybe you should wait for him to show up.
It was their opportunity to end this game easily. If they find Gunnar without the BKB, if they find Costabile without his, the game might just end. But now, this is incredibly even. This is all about the next fight. They've got the Roche, they've got a reason for Zoomers to leave the base, and Zoomers not only need to push out their waves, they also need to come towards this pit, something that they might decide not to do. But that's why you see so many Zoomer here. They're just going, yeah, they're saying top wave's okay. If Gunnar's not here immediately, we just gotta go. They've got Boots of Travel 2 on him, so he can join the fight immediately, but anyone dies here without buyback, and this game is looking incredibly different. They see Lumiere in the pit.
And Gunnar was able to purchase himself up another Rapier, so he does still have that damage to work with. TP's now onto his teammate, and they're going to push their way forward. Getting into the pit now, Gunnar even X'd himself just to make sure he was going to be okay. As the Hex comes in, it's reflected by the Lotus, though, so both sides, they're backing out. But yeah, now with Kunkka TPing tier 4 towers, they're under attack, so if you're Infamous, at this point, I know it's risky, but you have to keep Zoomers here as long as you possibly can. But really, it's either that, keep Zoomers here, or force all of Zoomers back. Those are their two options, and it looks like Zoomers are kind of going to make the choice for them, pulling back with most, if not all, of their lineup. That allows Infamous to take down Roshan, and how are they going to divide this here? Lumiere was able to grab the Aegis alone, got the cheese and the shard, and he got the Agsynth as well? Yeah, he did. So, well, that is going to be quite an interesting play now. He's got the Cataclysm to work with, and if you're Zoomers, you're going to have to be very mindful of your positioning now, because if that Cataclysm hits, that's a hell of a lot of damage to Sacred. Going to get jumped in on. BKB activated, though, so he is trying to fall back. The Nullifier... not really doing too much there, and now the trap has been set. They go in. There's going to be the Soulbind into the Hex onto Costabile. They're going to try to finish him off as quickly as they can. BKB active, though, so the Jug not going down just yet. Now that Cataclysm comes in, he is forced to use the Omni Slash to avoid it. Bouncing in between two heroes, though, but one of those heroes is Lumiere. If they could take him down, they would be able to get through that first life, but again, that Satanic coming into play. Lumiere healing up. Costabile is the one dropping low, trying to get away. Michael rolling after him, though, able to get the last bit of damage in. Costabile falls. He's dead with no buyback. Moo goes down as well. He is in a pretty much the exact same position. And that looks like it may just be the end of it. They're going to really track down Husky here. They'll finish him off as well. And now, ET, it's time to see if Zoomers have a miracle. Really, that's the only thing that's going to save them.
Yeah, they've got to do something crazy with Gunnar, something with a one-shot, something. They need... It feels like if he had this second Rapier, then maybe... Oh, he's going to sell something for it.
Oh.
Okay, he has the second Rapier.
Oh. He X's himself, sends a teammate out for the Boots of Travel 2, is able to finish that. So yeah, double Rapier play. I don't think Infamous know this is coming. Oh, they know now, but yeah, there's the Aeon Disc. That's going to kind of ruin it a little bit.
Tier 5s.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's Jesus. I almost forgot. We had hit that hour-long marks, and oh god, it's still going. Sacred? Well, he just ruptured himself. He ruptured Gunner as well, though, but Gunner's going to be able to fall back, but now the tier 4s are under attack. They've lost one. That's going to force out the glyph. Meanwhile, look at Alone. He's playing goalkeeper on his opponent's fountain, and that's going to be it. Gunner, he's got to go. Where is he? He TPs himself into the fight, but he's just getting blown up. Lumiere beats him. Oh, well, the double rapier play was certainly interesting, but it wasn't enough. Infamous are able to finally, and I well and truly mean finally, break through to take that win.
It was a messy road to victory. I think that they really had this game in their hands for a while. After those two impressive turnarounds where they get those kills onto Roche, they get those kills onto the first racks in the mid lane, even then when they got the kills onto the Megas, which was completely out of left field, everything just changed after that point. I think for Zoomers, especially with their early itemization, no Yule Scepters, no Lotus Orbs, very few Force Staffs, they were playing in Michael's ball field, and Michael just hit it out of the park. He just consistently found so many important spells over and over again. He's the one that really started the downfall for Zoomers. And then for Zoomers, held them there for so long. I think the only reason they even get themselves in this very tight position is because they go for that kill into Lumiere mid and they don't instantly kill him. He gets one of those solar guardians, or not solar guardians. He gets the Q off. He gets the Starbreaker, and then he gets the satanic, and then he just doesn't die. And then he gets another one off, and then he still doesn't die. And then he even messes up, and then solar guardians, and then he doesn't end up in the right fight, and it doesn't matter. It was just that late game decision making, I think specifically from Alone, who was just able to find a lot of those incredible hexes, a lot of that spell usage bottom as well, just using that refresher shard to get the die back on Costa Bile. They finally had the damage. They had the Sunstrikes. They had the refresher. They actually got to kill Costa Bile in a chain disable. And then that was just the thing that really nailed the coffin. I don't know. That was just a nice game from Infamous towards the end there.
Yeah. And this is always the weird thing, right? You hit that hour mark, or I suppose technically speaking a little bit before that, the normal laws of Dota start to apply less and less, because Infamous, in some weird paradoxical way, the reason why those last couple of fights were even available to them is because they lost a fight earlier that finally baited 4Zoomers out of their own base, whereas before they had been full on sort of turtling things up there and almost refusing to budge. So if you're Infamous, you couldn't break the high ground. I'm not going to say they lost a fight on purpose, because at this point in the game, I'm not entirely sure how you would even do that. But it's the loss in one fight that sets up 4Zoomers to push out. Then Infamous can sort of threaten the Roche pit, and it leads into that sort of crazy, wild final sequence. 3 rapiers ended up being purchased, all of them by Gunner, by the way, which makes it an even sadder story. He bought 3 rapiers, he ended the game with 0. But that's what 4Zoomers felt that they needed, and it almost worked out for them, but they just didn't quite have enough there in those final fights.
Yeah, and it's almost poetic that the final reason that 4Zoomers come out of the pit that really started everything was just because of Roche. It was the 4th Roche of the game. They wanted to do something. Every single Roche just drew everyone towards it, and then that's where all the good fighting ends up happening. That was just a really nice little button of a way to end the game.
And ending that Infamous are going to be more than happy with, especially after dropping the first game in the series. So it's a 1-1 split here in this final 2-game series that's going to keep both of those squads really in those same positions. They're still both going to be sitting top 3 at the end of the day. So very nicely done by both squads. And with that, as I said before, this was our final series of the day. So we get a sort of exciting cap in that last series, but we are now pretty much done. We are going to be shutting things down here in just a couple of minutes. So again, Infamous and 4Zoomers getting that 1-1 split. ET, I mean, I feel like my brain's a little bit fried after that one. I don't know how you're feeling, but any closing thoughts? What stuck out to you in terms of today's games?
I just check out Lava. Lava's got a lot of games. They were one of the teams that was definitely kind of backloaded into this tournament, so we're going to see them pretty much every single day going forward. Look out for that team. That team's scary. That team deceptively, goes into the tournament versus Black and Yellow 1-1. They're going to keep going into this tournament getting some pretty good games. They're definitely the team to look out for, so be careful of them.
Yeah, we know what they're capable of back on Thunder Predator, and, well, I mean, the 2-0 sweep today. Black and Yellow maybe not the most formidable opponent they could have faced, but they looked pretty damn good there. So with that, we are going to be shutting things down. We will be back tomorrow afternoon, same start time, 3 p.m. Pacific. For now, though, thank you all so much for watching. We will see you tomorrow. Good night.